Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer. This is Metatron speaking. I'm going to be talking about electronics and how this relates to the spiritual world and your day-to-day life now. But in order to talk about this topic, I'm actually going to give you like this huge and unnecessary backstory. But it's interesting. It's fascinating, and so I want to tell you about that too. Let me actually pull up my notes. And make sure I can find what I need to find. That's so things happen. There we go. Okay. So, and this is backstory, which I think it's fascinating, and so I'm going to share it with you. So I love crystals. I love using crystals, and throughout my time working with Archangel Metatron, I've asked him a couple times, like, "Hey, should I get a crystal skull?" Because I'd never had one, and I could tell that there was um, something there to learn about. And he would always say no, 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 no. And so I've asked him probably like 10 different times, because I'll be searching on like Etsy or wherever, looking at different crystals, and I'll come across one and I'll be like, hey. And he's always like, no. So I'm like, okay. So I've just left it alone. So I go to a monthly crystal sale. So they have like those Instagram live sales, and they're lots of fun because it's live and they'll show you different things. And Susan and I will purchase things. And one of the most recent live sales that Susan and I went to, we purchased some things. And then I won a giveaway. So there was several different crystals in that giveaway. One of the crystals in the giveaway was a crystal skull. And I was just like, Metatron. Because this whole time he's always like told me, no, 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 don't get it, don't get it. So at first I was like, do I need to throw this away? He's like, no. And I'm like, do I need to like cleanse it and then give it away? He's like, no. So I waited for this crystal to arrive in the mail, and when it did, I put it in my hands, and it definitely, because I'll put it in my palm to feel it, definitely had an energy that I'd never felt before. So I knew there was some purpose to me being sent this particular crystal. I could feel specific energies tied to the crystal that were not part of the crystal itself, because there's a difference. That's actually a good point. There's a difference between you picking up a crystal and going, ooh, I like the way it feels. It feels comforting. It feels powerful. It feels whatever. There's a difference between feeling the energy on the crystal and feeling something that's been like programmed onto a crystal. And so I could feel something was like programmed or included with the crystal that wasn't part of the original crystal itself. And so I checked with Metatron again about whether I should keep it, and he said yes. And so I'm like, okay. So I started trying to figure out how to figure out what was programmed into this crystal. So it ended up being Andromedan energies. I ended up connecting with a being that I've never met before, never seen before. So I asked this being, I was like, can you step forward so I could channel you and, figure out what the heck is going on with this? And they, I felt like before I could see them, I felt silver light, and it was light and it was love. And so when I felt the love, I was like, oh, like I calmed down, because I was kind of worried before that, because on a subconscious, or I guess maybe a conscious level, on some kind of soul memory level, I recognize that working with a crystal skull is not that it's a common way to interact with like darker magic. And so the whole time I'm like, man, because I don't want to work with dark magic in this lifetime. I know I've worked with it in other lifetimes, but that's just not my thing this lifetime. And so when I felt that being and they felt like love, I was like, okay, whatever this is going to be okay. Because you can't mimic that. I feel reassured that I can proceed without risking an interaction that I do not want. This being is androgynous, so they're male and female. Their skin is silver. They have like, no hair, like the large black eyes. Oliver, come sit down. I wish you guys could see all the little chew marks that are in my cord, because when I start my videos, oh, I know. Can you just say hi real quick? Thanks. He's in a chewy mood. You could just hang out, no big deal. This being's skin is silver, and it has like almost like glitter, for lack of a better explanation. It's got like this shine or this sheen to the skin itself, which was like magical. And so I was like, ooh, this is impressive. So their name is Clavon. Their name is Clavon, but they said you can call me Clavon. Thank you. Okay, their name is Clavon, and they said I could call them Clave. They speak with the voice, so the timbre of their voice is in between male and female, which makes sense because they are androgynous. Oliver, you want to come down? I don't know if he likes my androgynous energies, my Andromedan energies. Sit down, buddy. And so I asked them what planet they are from. I started getting equipment placed in me because I typically channel at the 5th dimensional level, and if I channel higher than that, especially 7th, I need more equipment put on me so that I can hear better. So I could feel things being done to my head to help me pick up on what this being was saying. So they said they're from Nakla in the Iron constellation. And I'm like, I don't know where this is. I've never heard of this. But that's normal because the Andromedan galaxy, it's a galaxy. It's huge. We know nothing about it. So it's not surprising that I don't know where this one constellation is or this one planet. And I asked him, what do you want me to know? And it was interesting. I was like, what do you want me to know? And then the next thing that happened was I felt pain in my palm. And I just turned to Odin, who's always with me, and I was like, Odin, get it out. Can you get it out? And I didn't even know what it was, but I was like, just get this out because it hurts. And he was like pulling little arrows out of my palms. And I was like, what was that? And Odin told me, he's like, the mention of this constellation reminded you of trauma on an unconscious level, because I don't have memories of it, right? So the mention of the constellation brought up trauma from there, and him pulling those arrows out was some kind of traumatic event that happened to me while I lived there. And I'm thinking, like, what the heck did they do to me that they put arrows in my palms? And I was like, that seems kind of barbaric for 7D. But Clave, Clav, I'm gonna keep messing this up. Clav says, we still have our share of darkness everywhere, which is totally true. Doesn't matter what planet you're on, darkness is always possible. And some individuals will always choose darkness, even if they're in 7D. So he says, we still have our share of darkness everywhere. I want you to know that where you have suffered you will grow stronger. From wounds sprout flowers. Everything grows back stronger after energetic destruction. Anticipate that your weakness will lead to strength and your powerlessness will lead to more power. It is not obvious, but it is the way of the universe. And so when I was originally channeling this was like a month ago, during the time that I was like sick for like 3 weeks or a month. And so I was sick when I was channeling him, but it was before I got really sick. It was like the second cold and not the flu. And so I was still able to channel. And when he was telling me that, I was like, gosh, I feel like he's telling me, don't worry about being sick. You're going to come back stronger, which is true. So from my illness that I just recently had, which lasted like 3 weeks, I've noticed that I'm able to connect to my guides for a longer period of time and not get tired. So I'm not sure, I don't think it's infinite, but I haven't really pushed it to see how far I can go with it yet. But I definitely have a stronger, like, spiritual battery now. Because before I could channel, I don't know, about an hour and a half, and then it kind of started getting worn out. And that hasn't happened to me. I've done YouTube lives for like an hour and a half, and I could easily have just kept going and going and going, but I was like, I have things I need to do, so I'll leave. So usually that's unusual. I want to tell you guys that it is unusual to get an upgrade or have an increase in your spiritual gifts that you can actually notice from, like, 1 week to the next. That's unusual because it is hard on the physical body. No, it's hard on the mind. It is hard on the mind when there are big jumps in psychic gifts because, and I'll kind of explain that to you guys as I go. So typically it'll take like 3 months, 6 months, and then you'll look back and go, oh wait, there was an improvement. It's not like so obvious. The upgrade that I received as a result of being sick was because it wasn't like an actual upgrade. I called it that because people understand what that means, but technically it wasn't an upgrade. Technically, I purged so much low vibrational energy from being sick, because remember, when you're sick, you are purging energetics. You're purging energetics. You're purging energy that's of a low vibration, right? And so I did so much of that that my frequency was able to stay higher, which means I could connect better, easier, with less effort. Because it takes physical effort to focus and connect and channel, because it's not like talking to someone. They're in your dimension. When you're talking to someone in a different dimension, you're working hard to do that. You can't do it 24 hours a day. So Odin fixed my hand with all the little arrows in it, and I looked at my hand, and there was like silver light coming out of my hand with like little sparkles. And so Clav says, the energies of my race are within the crystal skull. The light with silver flecks that you see in your palm is the same energy that is within the crystal skull. There is an infinite source of our energy there. So basically, when there's an infinite source of energy, it's because a portal has been set up, in this case, inside the crystal itself, so that it always traces back to the galaxy. And so I had a little conversation with him about it, because when he said there was infinite energy there, I was like, I got triggered. I was like, ooh, wait. Because when you have an infinite energy source, that is something that that is something that governments will kill for. That is something that people go to war for. That's something that's a highly prized technology, more so in other dimensions where they understand it and all of this. Here, we obviously don't know quite what to do with that yet. And so I have this like memory, essentially, and it's not really a memory. I just have this knowing that it's kind of dangerous to have an infinite energy source. And so I have soul memory that when there's an infinite energy source, dark energies want access to that so that they can power things for their purposes, right? And so I think this, and then I look at Clave, and I'm like, is this true? Like, is what I'm seeing right? And he like hesitates. And I look at Metatron, and I'm like, is this true? And he's like, yes. And then so I was trying to fix it. I was like, well, can I just do something to this energy so that it cannot be misused? It cannot be used for dark purposes. And Clave was like, no, like it can power anything for any purpose now that that energy source is placed in there. And I was kind of like, this kind of seems like a liability. This kind of seems like a problem for me because it felt like, if someone handed you a really big diamond, it's like you don't really want that diamond because you don't want anyone to rob you, right? You don't want problems, so you don't really want that big diamond. And so it's like they handed me something like that, and I'm like, I don't want trouble. Clave says, it's shrouded. There is no way for others to detect the energy inside. You can only sense its power because your energy has been programmed with it. You are like the key and it is the door. So I'm like, okay. And then it's funny because I was asking Metatron, I was like, should I even show this crystal on YouTube? Should I even be talking about this crystal? Because it's like, and Metatron's like, um, I have certain really good protections in place for certain things. And so this would fall under that, essentially. So he's like, it's fine. It's fine. And so I was asking them, what do your energies do? Since it's their race that was placed into this crystal. And he's like, it's just their energies are the infinite power source. And so he said, it'll power whatever you program it to do. And so I was kind of like, so it's like a genie lamp, basically, and I like get a wish. And Clave he can't do facial expressions because he communicates telepathically. So he frowns at me, but not his actual face. Energetically, I can feel his frown. I'm like, it's like a genie lamp. And he's like, mm-mm. And I'm like, no. And he says, it's an opportunity for you to work with our energies again. It is an opportunity to work with the technology again. So I'm like, okay. And I kind of feel pressure. So I'm like, well, whatever I program it for, is it okay if I like change my mind later and then can I reprogram it? And Clave pauses for a while and then he's like, yeah, you can do that. And I asked both him and Metatron, like, is there anything you recommend I use this for? And they're saying no. So that's very common. A lot of times we want our guides to tell us what to do and to make choices for us, and that's really not their role. And I'm extremely aware of that. The only reason I touched base with them is because of the career path that I have in this lifetime. So because like the things that happen to me are not the things that I think would happen to me if I didn't have an energy healing business with Susan, or if I wasn't putting YouTube videos out or putting Medium articles out. If I wasn't doing those things, my guides would be interacting with me differently. A lot of the things that happen to me are because they want to teach me about certain topics in order to be able to assist other people, to teach them or to support them in what they are going through. So I didn't know if they gave me this because there was something super specific they wanted me to do with it. So I was like, is there something you want me to do with this? And they said no. So I was like, all right. Scrolling my notes. So I had these different ideas float through my mind of how to use the crystal. And I realized that if I wished something for, I say wished, if I programmed the crystal to power intentions for someone else or the world, that in fact is crossing over into black magic, because I'm taking away free will. And I don't want to do that. So I was recognizing, okay, whatever I use this for, it has to be for me personally. It cannot change anyone else's existence. And so I decided to program it to assist me with receiving downloads. So I already received downloads, but I love them, and I was like, I would like to receive more, and really, more interesting things, whatever. I don't know. I just for downloads. So I do this, and within 24 hours, I've been given 4 different downloads, which is insanity. The way they did it, because most times when you get a download, most times they download the whole thing at once. Or at least I know it can be done that way, because the first time I ever received a download, they shoved the whole book into me, and I was like, whoa, I know everything. In this case, they would shove like the first paragraph or the first chapter into my brain. So I knew what the topic was, and then it was basically up to me if I wanted to know more about this, I would need to set aside time, I would need to channel, I would need to write it down. But they gave me the opportunity on these 4 different topics. So this is the segue. This is leading us into our actual conversation here, which is electronic protection. Let me scroll into the right place again. I gotta get me a different way to do notes, guys. I mean, not really, because this is the way I do them and it just works for me, but I talk a lot and I lose my place all the time. Yeah. The other thing is that it's hard because, honestly, I would love to just sit around and channel for 8 hours every day nonstop. But realistically, I can't, right? I don't have the time to channel everything because I have family, I have children I'm taking care of. I have, I still have physical world obligations. There's still laundry that needs to be done, and counters that need to be cleaned, and cats that need to be fed. And, I'm running a business and all these other things. So I already have a lot of ways that my time is already being eaten up. So I have to kind of pick and choose what I channel, which is hard because I want to channel all of it. So let me explain this download and how it came in, because it's actually been hard for me. So I think combining my frequency going up a little bit after being ill and purging so much, and then also getting these new downloads, it's actually I've been struggling, because before this, I'm basically always 1 foot in 5D. Got 1 foot in 5D, so I can always kind of just go like this and just kind of tune into Metatron, right? And obviously my physical body's in 3D, and I need to be paying attention to what's going on here, you know, because this is my world. Um, so I've always kind of been 1 foot in both of the dimensions, which I feel like I've done a good job with balancing those. Um, since these changes, it pushed me quite a bit more into the spiritual realm, which um, makes it very hard to focus in the physical world, and it makes it hard to do physical things. Like, I was trying to make a video the other day for my Patreon group, and I was struggling with getting my mouth to form words and just being able to find those words, because when you're in the energy of the other dimensions, a lot of it is telepathic. And so you get used to that telepathic communication. And so coming back here to try to speak physically is very hard. Like, I think about how souls were born here and we have to learn how to speak. It's not natural whatsoever to a soul to communicate the way we communicate. So I've been struggling, and it's almost like I'm a little bit too much in the other world. So because of that, I'm getting downloads in weird situations. Like, I was in a car and I wasn't driving the car, I was the passenger of the car. And it's not unusual for me to get downloads in a car. That's actually a really commonplace for me to get a download. But when I'm by myself is really when it happens. When I'm by myself, when I'm the driver. I had just gotten into the car. I was the passenger, and immediately things start happening. And so I want to try to explain this to you. So I want you to think about your I was gonna say your electronics. I want you to think about like your cell phone or your computer, whatever you use to access the internet and social media. And so think about that device. And so I'm going to describe something that's very commonplace that has happened to probably all of us, or unless you are just not paying attention. Essentially, you can, you know, be searching for, I don't know, peach cobbler recipes on the internet. And then all of a sudden in Facebook, you're getting advertisements or things talking about peach cobbler, and you're like, that's weird. And it's pretty commonplace knowledge that what we do on our devices, and also what we say out loud, is recorded, it's documented, it's tracked, it's monitored. So like, if you have any kind of technology that can recognize speech, then basically you always have that microphone on to be able to pick up the speech, to recognize the command. And so it's always documenting, what's going on. So like, for example, I have a television where it's hooked up with one of those Alexa boxes. And so I can talk to my TV, and I can tell my TV, change the channel, turn down the volume. I can tell the TV to turn on the lights in my house, like so it's always listening for that purpose. So that's just an example. I have got to find where I am in my notes. Okay. Yeah. So it's probably not surprising to people that, they search for something on one website, it starts popping up on another, right? Because the information is shared and tracked and yada, yada, yada. So here's what threw me off. I get into a car, before I got into the car, I was on my cell phone at home, and I happened to watch a video of a celebrity who I've never watched a video about before. I've never researched them. I never clicked on their any information about them, anything. Never interacted with this person digitally. So I watch a video of them on like a late night talk show. It's the first time I've ever watched anything on them, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Get into the car. As we are driving, leaving our home, there is a billboard outside of our home because we live off of a highway, and the billboard is a digital billboard. And so periodically it'll change and update to something new, but it's almost always in the last like 2, 3, almost 3 months, it's always been set to the same advertisement that I'm familiar with. So today it's a different one. And it's an advertisement for that celebrity that I just watched. That celebrity it was just a comedian. And so it's a billboard advertising that comedian's stand-up shows wherever they were. And I was just like, that's wild, because that's not what's typically advertised on that billboard. I've never seen that advertisement on that billboard before, and I haven't seen that advertisement on that billboard since. So I was like, whoa. And as I'm like reacting and going, whoa, Metatron is starting to download information into me. And so I have to make sure I say this verbatim to make sure I don't mess it up. Okay, so in my mind, what I just experienced is like impossible, because I'm like, you can't. I'm like talking to myself in my mind. I was like, whatever I do on my cell phone can't be tracked by this like public billboard. This has no ties to my personal electronics. Like, this is wild. And so Metatron shows me that electronic devices have their own collective. Think about this. So what I'm going to tell you is like, so let it sink in for a little bit. Electronic devices have their own collective. So there is a collective intelligence that certain electronics, not all of them, certain electronics can pull from, just like there's a human collective, right, that human beings can pull from. The reason that this is possible is because certain electronics, and so what I mean by certain electronics, like let's say your cell phone. Your cell phone is one of these electronics. The lamp in your house is not. The lamp uses electricity, but it's just a lamp, right? The cell phone has more intelligent technology in it. And so certain electronics are essentially low-level artificial intelligence. If you, yeah. So, yeah. So all of these devices, your smartwatch, your cell phone, your computer, your tablet, your laptop, there's other ones, and I'll talk about them. All of these devices are capable of having a collective to pull energy from, because they are artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence mimics a soul. So on an energetic level, my cell phone has an artificial soul. I know this is a lot. This is a lot for me, and I know it's true because of like what I was shown. So I don't want to freak anybody out. I don't want you to think like, oh no, I'm using a fake soul, artificial intelligence. I have to throw out all my technology. Like, I don't agree with that either. Artificial intelligence is very much like magic. Remember, we were talking about the crystal skull. Artificial intelligence is like a crystal skull. Artificial intelligence is like sexuality. And what I mean by that is that there is a capacity for a huge range of choices within it. And some of those choices are light, and some of those choices are dark, and some of those choices are in between. So sexuality can be used for light, sexuality can be used for harm. Magic can be used for light, magic can be used for harm. Crystal skulls for light, crystal skulls for harm. And so artificial intelligence can be used to help us, or it can be used for problems, right? And I think a lot of us recognize the problems that haven't shown up quite yet, but we're getting really close to it, where that whole man versus machine energy is coming in. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so a lamp is just a lamp, a curling iron is just a curling iron. So the curling iron is a good example. So just because the curling iron can follow simple commands does not mean it's reached the level of artificial intelligence. So like the curling iron, I push the button, it knows to turn on. It knows to adjust the heat hotter or lower. That doesn't make it at the level of artificial intelligence where it starts mimicking a soul and creating a collective energy. So I just want to throw that out there. So the day after this, I'm struggling with like these random technology problems, right? Where I'm trying to open up files on my phone because I do most of my work on my phone, some of it on a laptop. But I'm trying to open up files on my phone, and one of the files has completely disappeared, which is not even possible. Another time I was trying to create a brand new file, and it was like, no, you can't do this. And I got this error message I've never received in my life. Also very strange. When something like this happens, it's the result of interference on your electronics. And by interference, let me kind of explain this. So it's possible for all energetic beings to interact with and manipulate technology, and basically control our electronics. So, for example, as one of the examples of an energetic being, a departed soul, who, they have no physical body, they're just an energetic body now. A departed soul can go to your house and can change the channel on your television, or they can turn on a light in your house or turn off a light. And I'm sure a lot of you have different experiences like that, where something strange happened with an electronic, and it was actually probably someone you know, not just a random departed soul, but someone you know trying to get your attention. Another example is like a dark galactic being. So we've had troubles with our business. So Orange Light Energy is the business that I and Susan have. And we've had troubles with that kind of what we call interference. And a lot of times it shows up as someone not being able to access our website, or someone not being able to make a payment, or somebody sending us an email and the email just like disappears and we never see it. It never gets to us. Another example is one that's a nicer example. So obviously sometimes these energies interact with our electronics and we don't like it. But a good example of this, a positive example of this, is something that I recommend for everyone who watches me to give a try, which is getting messages from your guides through letting them pick music for you. to give you messages. So what you can do if you listen to your music on your cell phone or on something that has the capacity to shuffle your music, then you can shuffle your music and you can tell your guides before that, please, for the next 3 songs, please pick those 3 songs for me as messages to me for today. And, they have a good sense of humor. So sometimes it's silly and they're joking around, and other times it's more of a serious message. And it's either part of the title, or it might be some of the lyrics within the song itself. So that's a good way to connect with, your spirit guides in a positive way. But again, they're able to manipulate and control the cell phone or whatever you're using, your car radio, just the same way they can interact and manipulate our physical bodies, right? In the same way, I've asked my guides before to send me, songs as messages, and very rarely, but sometimes I'll get a song on there that's like, it's like kind of mean is what it feels like, and that's when I know that it's a demonic. This is another energy, a demonic entity that has come in that's again manipulating the phone or manipulating the radio. It's not my guides. And so I'm able to discern that because I know archangels are never going to tell me anything that um, makes me feel bad in any way. So back to my situation. So I'm struggling on my phone because I'm trying to do my work for my business and I can't do it. Metatron shows me, because remember we talked about that electronics have like an energetic soul, right? And so Metatron shows me, he allows this to happen to me basically to make a point. He's like, so your cell phone has an energetic body. And so he shows me that in the same way that I know how to place spiritual protections on people's energetic bodies to permanently code them with protection, he shows me that I can do this with my cell phone, my television, my, tablets, and anything that's in the house, right? And it kind of blew my mind. It was cool, but I was kind of like, that's crazy, again, because it's, part of a download. So he tells me this, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I keep trying to work, and I'm still getting the problems. And I'm still getting the electronic problems because Metatron wants me to stop, protect my equipment, and continue on a certain path. He's encouraging me to do this thing and create a service. So um so what I did place protections on all of the electronics in my house. I regularly include my cell phone and my laptop in my protections, and this is something that I encourage all of you to do as well. So when I'm doing the personal protection ritual, when I'm cutting cords and I'm transmuting low vibrational energies, I include my equipment, my cell phone and my laptop with that because obviously I'm working with topics and information that dark energies would not want me to be sharing. So, it's a good idea to keep clearing it. However, so I did the permanent protections on both of those. Energies still came off of both of them, which surprised me, but I was like, okay. What really shocked me is when I went to do my smart television, and my smart television was just completely like so much stuff came off of it. And I mean, I like, just so you know, I watched the most pure and innocent things on that television. Like, so I don't watch movies. I don't watch movies. I don't watch the news. I don't watch television shows. And my husband doesn't either. So the only things that ever go up on that television are like people playing singing bowls, or ocean waves. We're on some tropical island and we're watching the ocean waves, or we're listening to like the Native American flute. Like, it's very, very what you would think would be high vibrational. But that TV is a smart TV, and it's also connected to all of our technology and this, that, and the other thing. Because we can use our phones to tell the TV what to do. We can do voice command to the TV to turn off the lights. And so it's kind of like the brain of the electronics in the house. So a lot of stuff came off of that. The other thing, which should not be a surprise, is that my husband has a government issued laptop that he works on. So it's their property. They send it to him. He uses it for work purposes only. That one had an insane amount of dark energy come off of it. Probably not very surprising, but worth noting. Let me scroll in my notes and make sure I don't miss anything for all of you. Yeah. Okay, so Metatron had me develop a new service, calling the service Electronics Protection. It's designed to place permanent protections on certain kinds of electronics that, again, reach that threshold of being artificial intelligence, basically. So this is going to be computers, laptops, tablets, cell phones, Kindle devices, smartwatches, TVs, and video game consoles. And this is especially true with modern video game consoles, where it connects to the internet and we're able to play with other people across the world. It connects into that same flow of energies, basically. So these protections that I am able to place on these electronics are able to clear and block dark galactic entities, which is the major problem, to be honest. That's the major concern with electronics, are galactic energies interfering there. It is also possible demonic energies can use it. It's potentially possible that someone's placed black magic on those, so we clear that also. There are certain kinds of technology that dark galactics create specifically for being distributed in an electronic fashion. So I'm able to block those. One of those that I've talked about before, one of those kinds of technology is dark viruses. So dark viruses, it's an energetic virus, and a lot of time it's passed around like person to person. So you might, go to work and someone you're talking to could theoretically, if they have that, if they already have it in their system, they can pass that to you. But these can also be passed through electronic means. So if you, and this is why, I tell people, like, don't watch the news, because there's some crazy stuff that you can pick up. It's not just, oh, bummer. It's like, it's a downer to listen to the news. It makes me feel sad. There's actually there's actually energetic reasons why you wouldn't want to watch the mainstream news, and it's because there's a lot of the dark galactic technology that is passed around that way because it's able to reach a large amount of people. So that's why they choose it. So let's see. By the way, and I mentioned this before in my other videos, but there are a lot of dark viruses going around right now that are very complex and cause a lot of damage to, I say damage, they have a large impact on the souls that they are attaching to. And this is why Metatron has been encouraging people lately to get the dark virus healing session, Or if you've already had the dark virus healing session, part of that gives you access to special channeled music that is able to clear those dark viruses should you receive them again in the future. So any of you who've already had that session, if you get sick in any way, or perhaps you might just want to every month or more often if you feel called to it, I would say regularly start to use that dark virus clearing. When I first made the session, the advice that I was giving out was, hey, maybe you only need to listen to this every 6 months, just listen to your intuition. But now, for sure, there's a lot of things cycling around on the earth. So just regularly listen to that music regularly, however you feel led, just to keep clearing stuff. So especially if you just got sick, if you just got the flu, if you just got a cold, especially after that, because they oftentimes energetic viruses piggyback on top of physical viruses. Very common. So just keep that in mind. Sorry, guys, I have so many notes here. Okay. For the electronics protection, so it's going to block dark viruses. It's not going to clear any existing dark viruses that you have. And I want to say that just so people know what to expect. Clearing the dark viruses is a completely separate process. And so if you're interested in clearing dark viruses, you can get the session for that. But if you're just looking to block receiving future ones, you can use the electronics protection. And granted, it's not going to block you from ever receiving a dark virus ever again in your life, because you can still receive them person to person, but at least it's going to clear up your electronics, which is probably where a lot of it could be, just depending on how you live your life currently. Let's see. If you are interested in the electronics protection session, it is available right now. I will link it in the description. Because Metatron and Susan and I place a really high priority on protection, this session is priced much more affordably than a typical session with us. So this is half of the price of a typical session with us. And Metatron does that in order to encourage people to take advantage of the service. Um, Real quick, because Metatron wanted me to mention this. So if you don't know anything about that dark virus healing, just to give you an idea what it is, the dark virus healing, if you get that session, it can help you with a huge range of issues. So this can be anything from physical pain, this could be anxiety, this could be issues with your self-worth or your confidence. This could be some of these dark viruses can make it very difficult to access your spiritual gifts. So there's a lot of different things a lot of different ways that they can impact you. So just to kind of give you an idea of what those do. Yep. Okay, I talked about all this stuff, so I'm going to scroll down. Okay, so if anyone's interested in the dark virus healing, I will link it in the description, and the new service, Electronics Protection, I will also link that in the description. I'll link them both down in the description. And feel free to reach out to us, to email us if you have any questions about whether the session is appropriate for you or whether that's the best choice for you. You can always feel free to message us about that. We're happy to check in with Metatron to make sure that anytime our clients are not sure what the best fit is for them, we can always check with him and just make sure that you're getting the one that's the most appropriate for you at this time. Because if you're asking us right now, or if you're asking us a month from now, the answer could be different. 100%. So it's very specific to whatever's going on in your life. Okay, everybody, this video is long enough. I hope you're having an amazing weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.